Well, Big East basketball fans, you voted, and here we are ahead of the 97th meeting between the Georgetown Hoyas and the Syracuse Orange in our nation's capital. Hey, everybody, I'm Meghan Caffrey. So happy to be here with you for Big East Shootaround. Coming up on today's show, we will dive a little bit deeper into this historic rivalry. Also, an interview with Coach Bill Raftery. But first, let's dive into the headlines for today. Tip-off here is at noon Eastern time for Georgetown, Syracuse. Also at noon, the Creighton Blue Jays are taking on number 24 BYU. A big one for the Jays, taking on their second straight ranked opponent after falling to number 19 Iowa State last week. And how about this for a nugget? In the last 6 seasons, the Jays have actually beaten multiple top 25 teams, something only 11 other teams can claim. A little scheduling update here as we look at the graphic. Marquette's afternoon game with UCLA today was bumped to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time due to some travel delays for the Bruins. That will be on FS2. The 15th ranked UConn Huskies take on St. Bonaventure today in the Never Forget Classic at the Prudential Center up in Jersey. And of course, we cannot forget about the Crosstown Shootout. Xavier taking on Cincinnati later today, looking to keep their 4-game win streak going. Now let's turn to headline number 2 as we take a look a little bit deeper into the Big East Big 12 battle and get an update. 5 big wins for the Big East, including Butler beating Oklahoma, Marquette on the road to beat Kansas State, and Seton Hall taking down Kentucky. Another huge game from Jared Rhoden. He scored 18 points in that game. He has just been dominant. And get this, that was actually the Pirates' second top 10 win this season, the first time the Pirates have done that in the non-com. Tomorrow, Villanova continues with the battle. They take on Baylor at 3 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. Now let's turn to headline number 3. Why we are here today, it is the rivalry renewed. Such great moments in this historic rivalry. You cannot forget about all the great battles between Patrick Ewing and Syracuse. Can't forget about McDonald's buzzer beater. That was a great one. The energy is always electric. The fans get really into it, and moments like these are what college basketball is all about.
A rivalry. It's 2 teams who don't like each other, but respect the heck out of each other in the process. And even though they may not be in the same leagues now, they've kept it going, because that's what it means. Georgetown, Syracuse, Thompson, Boeheim, Pearl, Ewing. It stood the test of time. It's featured some of the great moments in the history of college basketball. Manley Fieldhouse closing. Syracuse responding.
Syracuse wins!
When they've met at the Garden, the moments have spoken for themselves as well inside the world's most famous arena. It's a team based in New York, the other in our nation's capital. The brands. An S for the Orange. The Georgetown G. This is what a rivalry is all about. Hoyas, Cuse. No matter what their records are, no matter who the players are, one side has had the same coach walk through the door every year. The other, a familiar face to that coach, who now is on the opposite sideline, leading the rival to the Orange, the Georgetown Hoyas. It's Georgetown and Syracuse from our nation's capital. And no matter when, where, or who, this rivalry is one of college basketball's best, and it always will be.
We welcome you to Manhattan and the Big East Tournament.
Here at the Garden, decibel levels will be high.
This is going to be a good one, folks. 2 Big East powers.
You gotta be strong.
And that will do it. The Musketeers.
Oh, how about that?
And the jam.
Welcome back to Capital One Arena. Now, with a little bit of a deeper look at the state of the Big East, here's John Fanta.
Thank you, Megan. What a start to the season it has been in Big East hoops. You think about what the conference did last year, and in that COVID-19 season, it was strange. It was a roller coaster ride in more ways than one. The league gets 4 teams into the NCAA tournament. We all know that the expectation is you'd like to get 5, 6 teams into the field of 68. The conference is on track to do those types of things, if not get 7 teams into the field. And here's why. Of course, the Villanova Wildcats and the Connecticut Huskies are both in the top 15 nationally in the rankings. We expected those 2 teams to be at the top of the league. But after that, there was a bit of a mystery. Seton Hall has answered that mystery in resounding fashion with not 1, but 2 wins over top 10 opponents and 8-1 on the season. The Pirates are getting it done with defense and Jared Rhoden. Then let's turn to Xavier. Xavier owns 3 Quadrant 1 wins. They are in just a select group that also includes Providence. Going back to the Musketeers, they're a team that has toughed it out. Paul Scruggs is their heart and soul. Kobe Jones has taken the next step. And since Nate Johnson faced me in horse, he has not missed. Providence, they are the sleeper team in the Big East. Ed Cooley has risen. The Friars are getting it done old school. It's not always pretty, but they are gritty. And Al Durham and Nate Watson are forming quite a duo. Then you go from there to the surprise team in the league. Shaka Smart is back, and so is Marquette. The Golden Eagles winning 8 of their first 10 games. They'll take on UCLA on Saturday afternoon at what should be an incredible atmosphere at the Fiserv Forum. St. John's expects to be a factor. They'll have work to do in conference play, and we'll see what that brings to the fold. But for the Big East Conference, this has been a really remarkable start to the season. And the middle of this league looks to be a race that's going to be a gauntlet every night. For the Big East to win 79 of their first 100 games is a statement to the rest of the country. Big East basketball, it's here to stay.
Thanks, John. Now, who better to talk to with a little bit more about the state of the Big East than the governor himself? Here's a little bit of my interview with Coach Bill Raftery. I'm now joined with Coach Bill Raftery. Coach, we're looking at today this historic rivalry between Georgetown and Syracuse. So many great games in the past. What are some of the key moments that stick out to you when you think about this rivalry?
Well, I think Syracuse is always dangerous when you get, I had Jim Boeheim on an interview earlier, and he was smiling.
Oh.
So they are ready if he's smiling. There's some wonderful memories in this building. Of course, up in the Dome and the Big East tournament itself. You know, the great names always jump out. The big centers at Georgetown, and obviously Pearl's the number one that jumps out. Derrick Coleman and Sherman Douglas. I mean, there's so many great players. I thought it was interesting for me yesterday. I went to the Georgetown practice, and pretty much the same question, Pat. What do you think of the? Because they had some interesting games at the Dome. I mean, some of them were unattractive, you know.
Yeah.
The fans got a little bit upset, vociferous, but he said the one thing he remembered is they could never trap Pearl Washington. And they had a full court press, obviously. And of course, watching those games, that was the big thing. If Georgetown could turn you over, you were going to have a long night.
Yeah. Because you mentioned the fans a little bit. I mean, how much fun is it to be in an atmosphere, this rivalry? I mean, everyone is going to be loud for sure today.
Right, exactly. We have to put the mask on when we're finished, though, as you well know, which makes it interesting. But no, I think it's great for the players. You know, last year, Danny Gavitt, who we all know was a big part of the Big East, his dad, obviously, the commissioner. The job they did last year to have the games in Indianapolis was extraordinary. Yeah. And yet, just family and maybe a few friends got into it, and it just wasn't the same. So I think these kids, certainly they deserve it. That's why they go to college, to play in an atmosphere or a game like this. And, I think it translates into a better basketball game as well. You know, a little juice, a little energy, and leaving it all out there for the alma mater.
When you look at the X's and O's for today, what are some of the keys that you're looking at?
Well, anytime you play Georgetown, you talk about the zone, right? The 2-3. But now he's morphed it into different looks. So it really makes you be patient. And I think that's that's a big concern for Patrick Ewing as they attack this zone. A lot of times they'll push the ball to beat the zone being set up. And then when they are set up, you've got to be concerned, you'll do something well one trip, and what Jim Boeheim does historically is the next time down or 2 times down, he takes that away, and you have to make the adjustment on the fly as a player. You don't have enough timeouts when you play play Syracuse. So I think it'll test the patience offensively of Georgetown.
We can't let you go without just talking a little bit about the Big East overall this season. I mean, what are some of your takeaways? We've had some really great games in the battle so far. How do you assess how the conference is doing as a whole so far?
Well, I thought it was interesting. You mentioned the crowd, the Xavier crowd with Ohio State, for example. That's just a great building, and I think we're going to see that around the league now. Villanova playing Syracuse, a great takeaway. Syracuse played well. Villanova's obviously prepared. UConn has to get healthy. Providence is off to a good start. And old Seton Hall, God bless him, Kevin Willer's got them going. So, every game is going to be a tough game, contested game. And what's fun for us as announcers is the different types or styles that each team plays. So, you finish a game on Wednesday, you got one on Sunday. It might not be the pressing St. John's, might be a little matchup zone of a Providence or Seton Hall as well.
Always a fun time in this league.
It is.
We are so lucky. It's always a treat.
Right. Well, thanks for having me, Meghan. Appreciate it.
Certainly a treat to have you, Coach.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Thanks so much to Coach Raftery for taking the time. You can catch him and Brandon Gowden at noon Eastern time on Fox. Now let's take a look at the slate for today one more time. 7 games on the docket. Please note that schedule change with Marquette tipping off a little bit later. The big question is, will the Big East be able to continue to build on this outstanding non-conference play? Get this, 101 games played this season, Big East fans, and Big East teams are collectively 80-21. Now let's dive a little bit deeper for one final thought on this matchup between Georgetown and Syracuse. The Hoyas take down an average of 42.8 rebounds per game. The rebounding is what I'm looking at here. Syracuse, they average just short of 37 rebounds per game. That is going to be a battle. And you can't mention Syracuse without the zone. The question is, how will Georgetown be able to bust it? Will they be able to? Be sure to follow at Big East MBB on Twitter for all of the updates throughout today. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Big East Shootaround.